These are internet cables. They carry more than 95% of global internet traffic. They rest in complete darkness on the ocean floor, crossing entire continents, quietly keeping the world online. And without them, the modern world simply stops. Imagine if every time you wanted to talk to someone, you first had to shout your address into the sky. Not what you want to say, just who you are and where you live. And then everyone else on Earth, at the exact same moment, shouted their address back. Billions of people, every second, continuously. That chaos, that impossible, ridiculous, somehow perfectly synchronized noise, it's basically how the internet works. It's a massive, polite screaming match where every device is constantly saying, "Hi, I'm here. Are you there?" Until the right two manage to find each other and share a meme. The internet, it's not a place you go. It's not even a thing you use. It's more like a quiet agreement. A global handshake we all repeat billions and billions of times per second, even though nobody remembers when we agreed to it or what exactly we agreed to. You use it every day and don't even think about it. Depicted sometimes as a cloud, maybe wavelengths circulating in the air, or other imaginative ways of thinking about it. What is really the internet? The same internet that made you arrive here, watching someone across the globe probably, explaining you how internet works. Crazy, right? Even more, what's the difference between internet and web? And how does it even work? Rather than this is a better representation of the internet. Well, not exactly this one in particular, but on the grand scheme of things, the internet is just a bunch of cables that help different machines from around the world communicate. Seems a bit odd to think that every machine on this planet is connected to each other via a cable, especially if you are probably watching this on your mobile device without any cables dangling from it. But before we go deeper into how it evolved into what it is today, let's start with the basics. Two or more machines that can speak in similar protocols and are connected to each other form a network. The internet is just a bunch of networks that are connected internationally, hence the word. International, network, internetwork. Internet, more simply. Web, however, is a different thing. Before the web, information was cataloged in a linear way, meaning that if you were to go from point A to point D, you first had to go through B and C. And then if you were to go to C, you had to go back to A, and so on. So, to make this simpler to navigate, in 1989, Tim Berners-Lee proposed to manage information a bit different. He suggested that nodes with references to each information should exist so it can communicate directly. This concept of organizing information already existed, and it was called hypertext. So, hypertext webs plus internet means they could go now worldwide. How did all these machines end up talking to each other in the first place? Well, the internet wasn't created for memes, remote work, online shopping, or that one time you Googled something you are ashamed of. It started because governments were scared. Back in the 1960s, during the Cold War, the US had a tiny worry. What if someone blows our communication systems? Not ideal. So, in the 1960s, Paul Brand at RAND proposed a radical idea. Instead of one giant computer running everything, build a network with no center at all. A network that could keep functioning even if parts were destroyed. A network that could basically survive disaster. This idea led to something called packet switching, which sounds like boring networking term, but it's actually a genius move. Instead of sending one big chunk of data from A to B, you split it into many small packets that can take different routes. Lose one packet? No problem. Lose 10? Still fine. The message reassembles itself when it arrives. It was like inventing teleportation, except with a backup plan. In 1969, humanity made two huge steps, one on the moon, and the other one was releasing the first version of the internet. It was called ARPANET. And honestly, it was tiny, like 4 computers tiny. The first message ever to be sent was supposed to be login, but the system crashed after only 2 letters, so the first message in internet history was literally LO, as if the internet was trying to say LOL, but crashed before finishing. a perfect omen for everything that followed. Throughout the 70s and 80s, more universities and research labs started joining ARPANET. They weren't building a commercial system, they weren't trying to create social media, or even streaming. They just wanted to share data across long distances, without the whole thing exploding. During this time, two names changed everything: Vint Cerf and Bob Kahn. Think of them as the internet's parents, the cool ones, not the strict ones. They invented TCP/IP, the universal language of the internet. Before this, networks were like groups of people who each spoke their own dialect. TCP/IP basically said, alright everyone, from now on we speak this language, so we can all understand each other. On January 1st, 1983, the entire ARPANET switched to TCP/IP. That date is considered the internet's official birthday. Before that, a bunch of awkward machines trying to figure out how to talk. After that, a unified global network quietly beginning to form. This is where Tim Berners-Lee enters, the guy I mentioned earlier. He didn't invent the internet. He invented the thing that made the internet usable, the World Wide Web. URLs, hyperlinks, websites, browsers, the idea that the information shouldn't be read linearly, but connected like neurons. Suddenly, you didn't have to be a scientist to use the internet. You just needed a mouse, a browser, and way too much free time. Most people picture the internet as something floating around us, a digital mist, a magical cloud, or some invisible Wi-Fi aura linking the world together. But the truth is way less mystical and way more industrial. The real backbone of the internet is a web of massive fiber optic cables sleeping at the bottom of the ocean. Think of them as the intercontinental highways of the planet, except instead of cars, they carry pulses of light, and instead of asphalt, they're made of glass thinner than human hair. Your data isn't traveling through space like a sci-fi beam. It's shooting through these buried glass highways like tiny laser trains racing at almost the speed of light. And the most insane part, roughly 95% of all international internet traffic travels through these underwater cables. No satellites, no Wi-Fi, just long glowing threads stretched across the seafloor. Along the way, the cables need help. Every 50 to 100 kilometers, a tiny device called repeater sits inside the cable, a sort of underwater booster station that grabs the fading signal, refreshes it, and sends it sprinting forward again. So every time you send a message across the world, your data dives into the ocean, blasts through these glass highways, gets turbocharged by dozens of underwater pit stops, resurfaces on another continent, and reaches someone's device faster than you can unlock yours. The internet isn't just one giant system, but a layered ecosystem built by different players. On one side, you have the ISPs, the companies that bring the internet into your home through fiber, cable, or wireless. They don't store websites or information, they simply provide the physical access and route your data in and out of their network, like roads leading to your neighborhood. On the other side, you have hosting providers and data centers, Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, OVH, Hetzner, and so on, where the actual information lives. Websites, apps, videos, databases, everything. If ISPs are the roads, hosting providers are the skyscrapers full of servers humming in climate-controlled rooms. Connecting these two worlds is the global internet backbone, a set of massive high-capacity networks run by companies like Lumen, Tata Communications, Telia, and NTT. These networks act like international highways, carrying your data across countries and oceans when your ISP can't reach a hosting server directly. So every time you load a website, your request moves from your ISP onto the backbone, reaches the hosting provider that stores the content, and travels all the way back to your device in milliseconds. An entire global journey you never see. If this made you look at the internet a little different, you can like the video. Subscribe if you want to see how other everyday tech actually works. And maybe next time your Wi-Fi drops, you'll at least know which part of the planet to blame.